It's time to put this one to bed. All right, so this is stream number 4 of mixing and mastering drum and bass. Yeah, we've gone through quite a bit. Really some production stuff on this track, not just mixing and mastering. So if you haven't already, go check out parts 1 through 3, which I'll leave a link in the description here for you to check out. And I've been pretty thorough about showing you guys my mix techniques throughout this whole song. The template, the breakdown, the routing, what plugins I'm using, all in the box. That's what we're doing here. So you guys can kind of replicate it, find plugins that are similar to the ones that I have if you don't have them. And yeah, we're just going to finish this up today. I finally got all the drums replaced and kind of dialed in, and now it's about tones and getting the master bus going, right? So that's what we're going to be doing in this session. And if you're here joining us, then please say what's up. It is Saturday night. This is what I'm going to do on my Saturday night. I'm going to hang out with you guys. So I could be out doing fun shit, but this is fun to me. So, you know, nothing better than mixing and mastering, producing, you know, being in the studio. This is where I like to be. I really do. This is my my happy place, if you will. And I got all these toys around me, so I'm excited to be here. Yo, what's up, Gilly the Goat? Yeah, it's good. It's good to always see some new faces and some familiar faces on the stream. So say what's up if you're new. Say what's up if you're coming again to the stream. You know, like I see some of y'all come through all the time. So here we go. We have all these different parts, right? So we have like the intro. I'm just gonna kind of quickly jump around the session and show you what we got going on. So it's quite a bit. There's a lot going on. I've layered up the drums because the kick just wasn't punching. So here's without the kicks and all the layers I did here. Just so you can hear how kind of just non-punchy it is. All right, so a couple different mix moves I want to take care of while I'm here. On this part right here, we have like this kind of chop ARP synth, and then we have the wub wub, you know, the big wub thing that kind of happens in between. And I want to just kind of check this out here. So there's this like wow wow wow, this rave synth stab, which I think is really cool. I just feel like it needs to be more intense and in your face, and maybe out in the sides. And also I think it needs like more like 500 in the sides, you know? So I'll go in here and just like find the frequency I'm looking for, and we're gonna go to side, and we're just gonna treat the sides of this so it goes wop wop wop, you know, and it kind of slaps in the sides. I'm also gonna use some compression and stuff to make it punch a little bit harder. Okay, and that just kind of helps it like pop in the sides, and I think that that's really important for this kind of style of synth stab. So soloing this out, I kind of know what I want to hear out of it. First thing I want to do is maybe give it a little compression, and this will just kind of put it in your face a little bit, but also I can get it to attack a little bit harder, right? So I'm going to keep the release pretty long. I'm going to go opto, smooth on this, and then we're going to go like 4-to-1, 3-to-1, somewhere around here. And just give it like a good like 3 to 6 dB of compression, and then bring it back in so it's like really in your face when it hits, right? That's the idea. Bring the low level information up on this. And I'm also hearing that there's probably another layer in here. So when it goes wop, 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 like I hear kind of like a low end thing going on. So I'm not sure if that's in something else, but I'm going to search for that because I feel like it is. But when we hear this in the mix, it feels like, for some reason, it feels a lot bigger. Right now it's like popping a little bit more. So bypassing the plugins in and out just to show you what I'm doing there. So it kind of pushes it out to the sides. Also, because there's no, it seems like there's like a pause on the sub bass. No, the sub bass is rolling through, but what I want to do is kind of duck the sub bass when this hits. Okay, so remember I do have a duck bus for the drums. So I'm going to go sidechain kill, it's bus 5. I'm going to send 100% to that. And that right there is ducking this side chain of the sub bass. So you can see bus 5 is a side chain and we're listening to the key. So now when that hits, it's going to duck the sub. And that just helps it just go, okay, listen to this now, you know? We got bass and drums and then it's like, you know? I want that to happen. Another thing I'm not hearing in this, or since I did the sidechain, I'm going to let the low end back through. So you see I carved out the low end, but I think I can let all that sub stuff back in now because I'm making room for it. Right? So you hear how that happens. That's just kind of like, you know, nice little punchy thing. Also, when I listen to the 500, let's solo it out and make sure this is the right frequency I'm wanting. Yeah, I think it's more like 500 to 600, but it really helps it poke out of the sides. If you notice, like when we do this, and I'm gonna just like blast it up so you can really hear the difference here. Right, so it just kind of makes it like come out of the sides, which is a really important part of the sound that I'm trying to get here. So it cuts through the mix without like adding a bunch of additional EQ and stuff. I also think that there's room to give this a little boost like in the low end, maybe the punchy like 100 to 300 area. Let's just check it out. Yeah, that 50 is insanely cool. And if you want to do that with, say, a plugin instead of like just peaking out EQ, you could do that with something like Low Air. Low Air is a really cool plugin for that. So I'll show you how I would use that. So I go Low Air, and you can see here we'll do stereo on the Low Air. And what low air does is it's going to basically just give us that sub frequency that's maybe not there, but maybe it's up an octave. It'll kind of create that sub. But if it's there, it's going to even do better on that, right? So you have some presets you could go through here, like solid bass, very low indeed, subharmonic mastering, you know, stuff like that, which is good starting points. Like I wouldn't just like do this from scratch if you don't know what it's doing. Speaker destroyer, that's a good one, right? Go very low indeed, and you could see what it's doing here. So it takes the low air down, it takes the low up, the direct all the way down, and the output looks like it's gained up pretty good. But this is where we want to kind of blend in the direct with the low, right? So check this out. Right, you hear that, maybe you don't hear it, but you feel that sub. Especially if you're listening on speakers that are big enough. But that's too much, right? Because now it's all filtered. So we want to just blend in this direct. So bypassing that in and out. All right, so we got the room because we're side chaining the sub bass with this. So every time this hits, the sub bass goes down, right? So it's just kind of sharing room. But now let's pop this into the mix and hear it. So you can tell that's way too much low end. That's basically what this is doing. So I'm going to take the low down and the low air down, and I'm just going to kind of find a cooler range here. So this says 70 hertz. Maybe we go up a little bit. Maybe we're stick to that 100 area, because I think the sub is just kind of ducking it. It's just like the whole mix is getting ducked down. See, that's way better. And there's other things that we can do as well. Like, for example, after the low air, you could compress or limit to make sure that everything kind of like hits a ceiling and it's really in your face. You can also use like multiband compression, right? Where you want to maybe compress down a little bit on that sub frequency and let more of the mid out, but then also do gain, makeup gain, so that everything comes up and it's just like balls to the wall, which is always a cool way to kind of pre-chew stuff. Obviously, there's tons of different limiters and stuff, but one of my favorites and just like go-tos is L1. A lot of people use L2, but I like the L1 in the mix. I think it just sounds really good. It also gives like some harmonics. So we can kind of like brick wall this, right? And just watch what this does for it. Right, so that's pretty dope. And then my other thing is just kind of finesse the low air a little bit, right? And then add some harmonics. So I'm just trying to make this more colorful and more interesting of a sound. That's why I'm using all these plugins. It's really sound design. It's not necessarily mixing. It's like the producer made a sound that's like kind of too stock sounding for me. So I want to sound design it and make it more interesting in the mix. So that's not just like, oh, I just want this to fit in the mix and then be cool. This is like going the extra mile pretty much. It's like almost production stuff, right? So I'm gonna take the low down just a little bit, and we're gonna take the direct all the way up, and then make sure our output's pretty good, but it's not clipping out. And then, yeah, I'm just finding the good spot for that. And then what I wanna do is add some harmonics here. So the harmonics, let the limiter be the last thing in the mix on the chain so that it's not clipping, right? So we're basically brick walling this sound. And that's a really great way to do it. You can also use clippers, like a hard clip or a soft clip, right? There's really cool plugins for that. One of my favorites for this kind of idea that I want to show you to get some saturation and distortion from it would be from Kazrog, and this one is the K-Clip. I think this is a really cool plugin for more interesting, exciting clipping and sound design rather than just mixing, mastering clipping, if that makes sense. So for example, I'm just going to go, hey, let's go bass multiband distortion. So this has multi-band clipping, which you have tube, guitar amp, and smooth. Now I'm just going to solo this out so you can really hear it because we're really doing some sound design here. Right, that's just completely distorted, which is killing the low end and everything else, right? It's like just, it's clipping it out. So let's flip through some presets. I want to show you what this thing, like the range of what this plugin can do, because it's kind of crazy. All right, so let's say we wanted to open up this bass multiband thing and we wanted to mess with it, right? You have parallel mix on everything. So you have this at 75%, 100%, 77, 100%. All right, this is just a preset, right? So let's hit a ceiling. So make sure the ceiling is like 0.5, you know, when it hits, it's just chopping it, right? And then you have the mix also, and you have mid side, which is really cool. So you can actually do more of the sides or more of the mid, etc. So I can put this a little bit more in the sides. And then here, I can blend this back, right? And I'm just going to tweak these to something that I like. So the key is not to clip too much of the low stuff. Remember, we're on multiband, and let's try to give more distortion to, so I'm soloing the band here. Let's give more distortion to sort of the high mids, just so it'll poke through a little bit more. So I'm soloing out through the bands, right? So this is band 2, the low mids. Right away, that's too much. It just sounds shitty. Right? Like, so you got to be really careful, like use your ear and understand. Also, like if I pop this in the mix, it might sound dope. So don't ever think that like, oh, I got to make this sound amazing by itself. And then you put it in the mix and it's just shit, right? So there are definitely those times. So let's just pop it in the mix and see what happens. All right, so it's a different style. I'm actually like not liking it at all. So I don't even think like I'm gonna clip this. I think it sounds a lot cooler, just kind of smooth and punchy, right? And I'm even gonna take this down just a touch, and then I'm gonna push that 50 a little bit in the EQ, just a touch. And even on the 50, I would go into the sides with it, right? So you can do 100 in the sides, 50 in the sides. It doesn't really matter. And you know, a lot of people, oh, don't put sub in the sides. Dude, we're not cutting to vinyl here. It's all good. Yeah, much better. Now I'm going to limit a little bit harder. Pretty dope. Now that sound kind of stepped up. It feels like it's a more important sound now, right? It kind of punches through. And going back on this part as it changes, let's listen to it kind of in context.
And your soul.
All right, and bypassing the plugins and everything we just did, here's what it was before. All right, it's just like right up the middle. It feels a little too much up the middle, and it's just not as exciting. It almost sounds just a little too stock, right? So now plugins back in. It's nothing crazy, right? It's just like I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4 plugins and a bus send to get something to just sound 5% better. Right? So I'm not doing crazy moves. I'm not pushing shit to the limit. I'm not distorting the hell out of stuff. You know, I'm not going crazy with that. I just want that to pop a little bit more. And I'm sure I could have got there with less plugins, but you know, fuck it. All right. And then here, this ARP synth, I don't know what it is. I'll find it. Yeah, that shit is way too in the middle. That's super mono, right? It's like really boring. So for this, I want to throw like I think there's a really cool one from Valhalla, this space modulator. I think this could work pretty cool. And like literally just the default, like you turn it on, it sounds cool. Check it out. Pretty dope, right? Like automatically it's like it sounds interesting. It's textured, it's a little wider, and all we did was turn it on, right? It's at 50%, it's at a 0.1 hertz rate. We could take that down even further. You can mess around with everything here. But what I recommend is, you know, you check out some presets if you want, like widening stuff. There's drum zapper, flangers, doublers, all that kind of stuff. So I typically like, for what I'm trying to do here, I'm thinking of like a chorusing or a doubling effect, right? Make it wide. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So let's try chorusing or let's try doubling, right? So double slap. Let's check that out. And I'm just going to flip through some presets and find that thing that I go, ah, that's it. That sounds amazing. So I really like the double slap, and I like it just kind of blended in just a touch, like 30% or so. This sounds really cool to me. Just kind of gives it a wider feel, gets it out of the middle. Cool. That's feeling great for me. Like I feel like that part got a lot more exciting now. You know, it doesn't feel like stock sounds from like an Akai sampler or some shit. Okay, so now let's get into starting to master this and set up the master bus so we can get more out of it. What I want to do is just find a portion where it's probably the loudest and also like, you know, the most intense, punchy, whatever we want to do here. But I know the main parts are this like beginning. This repeats itself, so it might be a good spot to check out. Right, so that part is sort of the part that comes back around again by the end, okay? So right now I'm going to go to the master bus, and I'm really going to mess with the master bus. Okay, so let's find the master bus, which is always like this Mountain Dew green for me, just easier to find. And what we have here to begin is just the Manley variable mu, which is an amazing compressor. For this kind of style, this is a cool compressor. It might be a little too colorful because everything else is super colorful. So you might want to go with like an SSL style comp, right? Like a VCA, a punchy thing, tight thing. But I just love this compressor, and I know it so well. It does drive and it does distort pretty good. So it adds harmonics. And then I have the BX Digital just to be able to clean up and stuff and gain. So you can see we're clipping out on the output. Not a big deal because, you know, 64-bit plugins, not really going to matter if you see red, right? If you hear like audible clipping, digital distortion, yeah, you're probably in trouble. But if you see red on a plugin, it's not a big fucking deal, especially if you're in 24-bit, okay? So let's go in and let's just get some gain staging going and also just kind of carve out anything that we feel is kind of crazy, right? All right, that's really cool. I think in the sides we could use more of that, like the mid-range of the synths, which could be anywhere from 500 to 1.5, right? Somewhere around there. Yeah, I love that. That 800 area sounds really nice in the sides. It's going to kind of thicken this track out, and it's going to make those synths kind of glue better into the track. Also, just cleaning up the side a little bit on the filter. I typically like to filter out like sub frequencies from the sides, unless you have a track where it has that as like an effect for a bridge or something like that. But, you know, like sub, I'm talking about like 40 and below, right? So, and I do that softly. I do that with a 6 dB per octave slope. So it's just a subtle, like, let's shave out some of that. And this way we can get the record louder in the end.
Something
So I think that's sounding great so far. It's very clean, but still distorted and rough and crazy. But I feel like it now all needs to kind of like clear up a little bit and then like get pushed right to the balls to the wall type vibe. And once you do that, then you're going to bring everything more intensely up. So any sort of like mid-range that's distorted, you're going to bring that up. That's just what happens when you start mastering, right? We have the master plan at the very end. So this is doing a little bit of widening. We also did some widening with the BX Digital, just, you know, to be clear here, 116% there. And then on the master plan, we're just doing 1.21. So we're just doing a little bit extra, right? And then the loudness, we haven't touched anything else. All we have is like a little bit of limiting, very small amount of limiting. It's not even really doing much, right? Just kind of bringing the levels up. Okay, so before this, right after the BX Digital, I want to put some sort of compressor limiter, right, to start to glue that together a little bit more. So just so we're clear, the variable mu is not like a compressor for me, okay? I'm not using it to compress a lot. I'm using it for the tonality of the input drive and the tubes, okay? And more than likely the transformers that this is modeling, etc. So it's giving me color. It's giving me a lot of color, okay? That's what that's for. It's not necessarily for compressing, okay? So I want something that I can compress with, and something fast, right? Fast and punchy and tight. So for me, it's going to be like the DMG Audio Limitless. The reason I use this is because it also has a built-in dynamic EQ section. So I can kind of push this harder, and I can also dynamically shape the stuff as I'm pushing it, which is just an incredible thing. Like it's such a great tool. What's up, Drew? How you doing, man? Florida man in the house. Let's go. So yeah, DMG Audio, this Limitless plugin, there's nothing like it. I haven't found anything even close to it. And I'll show you how intensely awesome this is. Just this. The dynamic EQ multi-band compressor sort of thing here. Just insane. If you have a frequency in here that you just don't like, you could take it down and it's like no phase shifting. You just hear less of that frequency. It's just a very powerful plugin. And I've been using it for many, many years, you know, ever since I was turned on to it. I think Dave Pensato, I think, turned me on to this. I like watched some video of him like years ago using this, and I was like, he's like, oh, this is a game changer. I love this thing, you know. Pensato's place, you know, when he had like the mix corners and shit. But yeah, like that's probably where I got it from. But yeah, let's hit this. So release, we probably want to go a lot faster on this because it's such a fast track. And I also want it to kind of like, you know, tickle. I don't want it to like hold and turn down, right? So I want that release to be bam, 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 bam. We want to hit that shit. So another thing about this, I'm going to go to the ceiling and I'm just going to go down to where it hits negative. So negative. So this just means that we're not going over 0. That's it. All right. Like, that is just such a great limiter and compressor. Like, I mean, I treat it kind of like a compressor and a dynamic EQ, multi-band compressor sort of thing. But now check this out. Like, I can kind of tame that low end a little bit so I can push it harder. And this is where everything starts to take shape for me. I got the mix to a point where I'm like, I know that this mix is going to translate well into me doing my mastering process. So I'm not top-down mixing because I'm not mixing into the plugins necessarily, but I've been doing this for so long that I know what I'm going to do on the master and how I'm going to shape it. It's just the way I work, and maybe it's like an ADHD thing, I don't fucking know, but I don't really care. I'm just going to get to that end result. Right now we're still getting that punch and everything. Another thing I want to do is I want to let some of the transient through. Look, that's at negative 9.4 LUFs. LUFs, LUFs, whatever you want to call it. Don't at me. I don't give a fuck. But here we go. So if you see that negative 9.4, and we didn't even like, we're not even at the like master. Like this isn't even past the master plan. This is before everything, right? So we're gonna hit this so hard. It's gonna be fucking loud. Reason being is because this is the style of music. Like we want to slam this shit. All right. Shit smacking. Exactly. So we want this shit to smack. That's the name of the game. Now, before I do that, before I really go to smack mode, because, you know, now I have a few plugins on here. I have the Manley giving me some harmonics. Let's watch the meter to see the compression. Like maybe like 2 dB of compression, right? When it's really hitting. So it's not much, you know? It's a lot for the Manley for me. Usually I'm like a little less than that. So I'm going to show you how I can go make that up, right? So what I do here is I'll typically go to the, let's see here. We have our all drums, right? So all drums has an EQ on it. We're taming down a little bit of that, right? Makes sense. We're taming down a little bit of this, but I want to bring this back up a little bit just because of the style of drum and bass that it is. I do want a little bit more of that like rackety high-end shit, right? And then I want to tame this back a little bit. So I want to go up to like 18 to 20, right? I want to just try to get as much. I'm trying to really get voltage out of this, but I don't want to kill the sub. Super important. But this is the drum bus, and I'll let the sub bus, I'll let the bass bus kind of take over that sub shit and let that open. So that's something to keep in mind, is like you want your drums punchy and fat, but maybe the bass needs to be round and subby. Okay, so it's just a different way of thinking. But here's the bass master. So I have the R bass on here, which I'm going to take that down because really that's just adding harmonics, which is fine. And then we have the Shadow Hills and Black Box and all this stuff, right? We're letting a lot of sub just roll through here. Here's the Pro Q3. We're just taming down the sub. We're not rolling it out, okay? I'm going to let that sub really hit on that sub bass. I don't mind that, okay? And then the limiter is just giving me an out ceiling on that sub. So it's really just like, hold it right here, right? And then that way when we go to our mastering, we can kind of adjust the low end, right? Because this is sub. This is a lot of information right here. Okay, and then that's going to go to bus 7, which is going to go over here, and you can find bus 7, and it is the all drums. So this is really kind of all drums and bass, right? So let's go drums, bass. So this is all drums and bass. So that's the combination of drums and bass here. And we are shaving out everything down there, okay? But another thing I want to do is I want to hit this with a soft clip, okay? So I can give some harmonics and I can really like hit it, but also like soft clip the peaks, because that's the style of music this is, right? Without losing transients, because that's very important. So we're going to go to SIR Audio and standard clip this bitch. Now, I really like the Soft Clip Pro. Okay, so I think this is a really cool algorithm, and I like to leave this at like 2 or 4 times on oversampling. If you do more than that, I find sometimes the DAW will start to have latency, right? Like you're like, why is that late? Why are my vocals late? Or my, you know, shit gets thrown off. So if you do this, you got to do it on every bus and oversample, meaning all drums, all vocals, all instrument bus. It's got to be across everything at times 16 times or whatever, if your computer can handle it. All right, so on this, I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to barely trim the little peaks here, and we're going to add some soft clip saturation.
Something for your mind.
All right, so that shit's coming in so hot that it's just like, ah, fuck you. So this is where we start to do some gain management. And, you know, like you could see on my all drums and bass, I've actually taken it down 4.7 dB. So that's probably like a sign that I need to gain some things down, right? So pretty much that means my drum mix, my bass mix, all this stuff needs to be kind of tamed down, right? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this threshold, bring that up a little bit, all right? So that'll be less compression, less limiting. And I can take this bass master and I could just take this fader down a little bit, okay? Not much, I don't wanna go crazy. But then also the drums, the drum mix bus, going to the drum master bus, I wanna take down the drum master bus. So I gotta find that. And it looks like it's over here. So here's the drum master, L1. Let's take this up a little bit. And let's let the ceiling open a little bit. I'm just barely touching this shit, you know? And then I'm gonna take this down, same amount. Maybe more, who knows? Now you see what we got here on the soft clipper, right? Now we're just kind of trimming off the peaks, and that's really what I want to see as far as my gain goes, right? When I pop on a soft clip on my all drums and bass, so this is the combination of the two, I want to be able to see just like a little bit of the tops being chopped off. Okay, I don't want to see it like fucking going into red really hard, okay? Because that's just gonna kill all my transients. I don't want to kill my transients. You see what that's doing though? It sounds really good. It's like like this is the style of music, you guys. I don't do this to everything. Like, yeah, man, and then give me an R&B track and I'm just gonna fucking clip it. Like, nah, man, we're doing this for the style of music that it is. I'm going to try hard clipping too, because sometimes hard clipping can sound even better for this kind of shit, because sometimes it just gives the transients more life. Now I like and remember I'm listening to the drums and the bass. That's what I'm listening to right now, okay? I'm gonna go back to the Soft Clip Pro, and I like this because I can get this saturation in there. So I'm going to maybe just have this clip as 0, and I'm not going to do much here. I'm just gonna leave this. Maybe with like tiny, yeah, like 0.18. There you go. And then we're gonna add some soft clip saturation here. Right? That's like a beautiful amount for me. Just kind of gives me that like, balls to the wall. Another thing I'm going to do is just kind of adjust a little bit, okay? I'm going to go back to the drums. See, this is the balance. This is how we mix into our master, right? And into our buses. We have to set the balance. We have to set gain structure, right? It's very, very important. So this is the drum master here, okay? What I'm hearing a lot of is the mid-range, like the high mids of the drums coming through a little much, right? So what I want to do is give this air amount. I'm going to take that down a little bit. And the triode, I'm going to mess with this as I listen. All right, cool. So you see what that triode was doing? It was like really bringing out that clankiness of the snare, the ring of the snare, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to get that to a point where I really like it. It's musical for me. And if you crank the speakers, it's not going to blow your head off. All right. Also, the kick drums that I've added, I need to bring those down. They're just kind of a little much, right? And they're a little much as we push into everything. We just keep pushing into everything. Then you're going to find the thing that hits the limiters and the clipping and everything the most, right? So that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of bring these down. And that's going to be pretty small, right? Like a dB. Okay. Let's try that. All right, dope. Now let's focus on another part of the track. Let's go in somewhere else, just where we can kind of hear different stuff.
For your mind.
All right, it's getting there. It's really getting there. This is just going to be a fucking sausage. It really is. It's just going to be balls to the wall here. Okay, so now we have that on the drums. We have that soft clipping. Now that's going to allow us to kind of push harder on the master. But before I push harder on the master, I want to do some cleanup here because it is kind of, it's getting like too mashed up. All right. So what I like to use for that is Gullfoss. It's a good, like a light Gullfoss master kind of thing. So we'll go here and we'll go to Sound Theory, and we'll use the Gullfoss master. Big thing here, I'm going to only focus on, let's go all the way up to like 40 or so. And then let's go all the way down to like 15 or so. All right, just to roll this out a little bit. Don't boost because that's just going to give us a lot more low end, which I think we have plenty. But I'm going to tame, and I'll probably go like 10, start around 10, right? And then I'll recover maybe around 5 or so because there's so much already going on, okay? It's subtle, but it's opening it up. It's allowing the ARP to be a little bit more detached from the drums and the jangle of everything. And that's really what I'm hearing is the like that really becomes a lot clearer and a lot punchier also with the Gullfoss on. If you want, you can try doing, like I can try doing some boost here. What this basically will do is kind of carve out the middle and give it more of a Fletcher Munson feel. Okay, so it's just like more musical, but it'll also like warm it up quite a bit. Like you could see that's what that's doing, right? So I'm gonna go like maybe 2, right? 2 dB of it. Let's try that out.
home.
I like it because it's tightening up the mid-range, and it's also rolling out some of the top sparkly shit that I just really don't like in this style of music, right? So it is warming it up as well. It's kind of making it a little bit fatter. But yeah, separation is really key. It's going to make it fatter when you use the boost. So just to give you an A-B of the boost, if I go to 0 on this, right? Listen, and then I'll A-B it at 2. Right, warm and fatter, right? So fatter, warmer means people can turn it up louder at the rave party when they're popping Molly. Pretty much. What do you got here? Reminds me of a past client who clipped 75% of his project tracks because it sounds good. Yeah, that's a pretty typical story, to be honest, man. Like, people get addicted to compression, limiting, but clipping for sure. Like soft clipping, hard clippers, right? They're like, this is fucking amazing. Listen how loud it is. But the truth is, you have to really know the style you're working in. You know what I mean? Like a pop track, I'm not clipping that shit unless it's like a EDM, dubstep, garage, UK garage track that they're like, dude, make it so loud it blows my head off. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it really depends on the style. I would never like clip that hard on most stuff. You know, it's just not like the style that most stuff doesn't need that kind of clipping. You know what I mean? And a lot of these plugins have clippers in them. Like Masterplan has a clipper built in, right? So when you drive that up, you're clipping. It's the way it works. It's a hard clipper right in there. And, you know, a lot of these use like machine learning as well. Like the God Particle has a adaptive limiter in it that uses machine learning. So it listens to the low end and then it adapts to it. So these plugins are getting so good, man. A lot of people think that it's kind of like lying to you sometimes, you know, like, oh, you throw that on, you turn it up and you're like, sounds great just because it's louder, you know. That doesn't mean it's better. Louder means better, but when it goes to, like, for us, psychoacoustically, we just think louder sounds better. It's just the way it always is. But when it goes to streaming services, it's not the name of the game, you know? Like, you really want to be like -7 to like -4 would be like crazy, crazy loud fucking, and we're talking LUFS, right? That would be crazy, crazy balls to the wall loud. And probably wouldn't translate very well to Spotify and stuff unless you really, really know what you're doing. Like you really know how to keep the transients alive, keep the low end alive and tight, and you really spend the time. Otherwise, like, yeah, loud's not better. What do you got? It needs to be plus, not -6. Yeah. Just fucking everything clipped out, man. Just clip it all, bro. It sounds so sick. Right. The sound gooderizer, the fruity limiter, all these clippers, man. Like, yeah, it's crazy. But we're getting there. Like, my ears are ringing, you know, because this style of music, like, I have to take so many ear breaks. But I'm gonna do a couple more things. One of my favorite things to do on this style of music, for sure, before I hit Masterplan and all that really hard, is to throw on the Oxford Inflator and just give it some more loudness. But it's really like the harmonics that this thing gives that I can never do a mix without it. I'll be real with you. And it's just part of my workflow now. And I find myself, band split, of course, because this has tons of low end, but I find myself like hovering around like 20 to 40% on this, right? Like 33, like somewhere around here is like the sweet spot for this inflator. you know, when you're mixing and you know what you're going for. Check it out. Like, that's a shit ton, man. Like, we're really like pushing things to the limit. We have to be really careful on our gain structure. Like, I'm going to take the input down for sure and not let this clip on the input. The only way you can let this clip on the input with this clip at 0 is if you take this 100%, okay? So you can clip the input and it can be musical if you have this clip at 0. Okay, that's very important to understand about this. So if you have this clip at 0, it's not really clipping at 0 unless you have the effect at 100%, which I'm not going to do because I don't like the sound of the effect at 100%. So I'm going to take this back down probably like 25 or so, and I'm going to take the input down so it's not hitting red. I mean, that shit's magic though. And I'm also going to take the output down a little bit so it's not hitting red either. Now, I don't mind it hitting red a little bit on like peaks and shit on the Oxford Inflator, but if it's like just staying at red, yeah, you should probably adjust it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a gain stage thing. You should definitely pay attention to gain staging because you can get artifacts and stuff after you bounce and then it's taken to an MP3, you know? Remember, you're taking a wave, a high quality file that's a 24-bit, 44.1, 24-bit, 48K, etc., full everything, and then it's going to a streaming service and getting distributed, and it's streaming it sometimes at like 128 kilobits per second. Like, it's so like truncated. So when it truncates, that's when you're going to hear the clipping. But not in here. You're not going to hear it right here. You're not going to hear it with like nice converters that have huge headroom and all that stuff. So that's where people get fucked up, is they don't know how to master for Spotify. Apple Music, AAC, that's a different, it's just a different thing, you know? Like, everything's different. So you have to have your measures in there where you're not, like, this is crazy. Like, this track is really fucking loud. Like, I'll show you once we're done with this, like, how loud we got it. But I'm going to do my due diligence, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to make sure that everything's still going to translate really well if they want to pop it up on Spotify. Man, that shit is really, really fat, man. So I got to be careful with that fatness. It's getting fat, right? It's getting big boy, fatty boy. Fat, bam, boomy, bam, fat boy. So what I got to do is I'm going to take this boost back down to like 1.5 and the recover down a little bit. And that's fine. I don't care about that. But just to give me my peace of mind, I just have to have the peace of mind. And this is also going to give me more gain staging to go into my master plan without working extra hard and going back on the mix really crazy. I'm going to go to, you know it. Everybody knows it. Everyone knows what I'm about to do. I'm going to go Sooth 2 on this bish. And my favorite presets absolute favorite presets on the master chain for this plugin, Mastering Advance and DS Low Mid Cleanup 1 and 2. They're incredible. Now, why? Because it's just fucking magic. And then the trim, it goes up 3 because it's obviously making up the gain again. Just take it back to 0. But this is basically just going to tame a little bit of the low stuff right here, which is absolutely necessary on this track. And then the high stuff, which is absolutely necessary. And it does it so musically that I could never go in and trim and do all this shit and spend all the time. I just couldn't do it because this is just smarter than me. I'm going to take the attack a little faster because this track is so fast. And I'm going to take the release a little bit slower. Okay, now let's check it out. I love that because it just like smooths it all out so well. And you know, it's doing it a little much, you know, so if you want, you just go whoop and go whoop, right? But I love what it's doing. And it's also tightening it so it's not like super crazy wide. Because, you know, like I did all this widening and you're like, well, why'd you do the widening? And then you put the soothe on and then it kind of collapses it. But the truth is, like, sometimes that widening gets so erratic, it makes your shit sound like you have like something way too loud, way left or way right. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of brings it in and goes like, all right, now we have a record. Like it sounds more like a record. I just love it. I don't know what else to say about this. I just think it sounds really good. And then if you take the Ultra, like you take this to like 2 to 4 times, it's just going to sound better and better, right? And offline, I'm going to go 4 times and I'm going to go Ultra. And it just sounds way better when you bounce it. But yeah, this is just magic, man. It just like glues everything together, puts it all together. Cohesion is what I get. And now I have this really great kind of pre-chewed thing going on, right? That I can then push into the master plan and watch what happens to the LUFS here. Yeah, it is getting so loud. So I try to tell people this, they don't understand it, right? They're like, yeah, LUFS, right? Like that means how loud it is. And it's like, no, LUFS are highly weighted on the mid-range. Like my point exactly, I've talked about this a million times, but check this out. Watch what happens to the LUFS when the vocal hits. We hover around 6, right? Like -6 or so. Vocal hits, and all of a sudden it's like, wah, -4. Check it out. So you're literally getting like a dB more sometimes a dB and a half more just from that mid-range of the vocal coming in. And I've set that vocal pretty far into the mix. But yeah, LUFS are highly weighted on the mid-range, just so you guys know. So if you've ever used like dB, SPL meters and shit like that, when you do like C weighted would be more weighted on the low end, right? And then when you do LUFS, you're talking about the mid-range. It's really, you want a loud record, make sure the mid-range is loud without clipping it and making it harsh. That's how you get a loud record with high LUFS, right? If that's your MO. But yeah, this is sounding fucking good to me, man. And I love like widening it out a little bit. Like that's just money. Like that's such a dope part of this plugin. Like, yeah, like just bypassing it in and out. Like you hear obviously a ton of gain, but it just sounds so good.
The Realm. Something for your mind. And your soul. Something for your mind and your soul. The Realm.
It's pretty crazy. I think we're pretty close there. But you see, I'm just kind of tweaking. You know what I mean? I want it to be, soft but aggressive, if that makes sense. It's hard, man. Like it's a hard thing to dial in. It's a lot of like finessing, and also like I'm ready for an ear break. There's just no way I can just keep tweaking this with my ears like so tight right now. So in the morning, probably I'll just like give this a once over and be like, oh, did I go too crazy? You know, did I make it too round? Do I need to go and put more aggression back into it? You know what I'm saying? And I'll bounce back and forth to the reference and go, okay, you know, I need to do this little tiny tweak or whatever. And then I'll bounce that thing and I'll send that to the client. And the client will be like, yo, this is super dope. And they'll give me any notes they have, you know? And that's kind of the way I work on this kind of stuff. So this was stream number 4. I've been streaming for another hour and 18 minutes, 17 minutes. So I really hope that you guys get a lot out of these videos and these streams. And if you do, share them, you know, subscribe to the channel, go to the other content, like it, comment, share that stuff that you like, you know. If you see a video on here that you're like, man, that just really helped me with my compression or EQ or getting my masters louder or whatever it is, you know, just say thank you. Like I'm doing this for you for free. Like I'm not saying here like, hey, come to the studio, I'm going to charge you to go over this stuff. I don't have to do this. I don't have to stream these mixes. So I hope you guys really enjoyed it. You get a lot out of it, but I also hope that you can learn how to give back and not take from people, especially professionals. I see that as like an epidemic in our industry and music. You see the top of the top professionals, they don't really want to give too much anymore because everyone just wants to take, right? And then they regurgitate the information and go put it out on TikTok or Instagram as their own content, all this other shit. Give people credit where due. It's very important that you do that. All right? And I'll see you next time. Peace, guys. Have a good night.